Hey, Daddy, this is the man of the champions, Bill Fonzie Alfonso, giving a shout out to something else. Something else, Daddy.
This is Nichols, Great Warrior Wolf, and you are listening to Something Else.
I'm Tony Genie, and you're listening to something else.
Hey everybody, it's Rich Palladino, the voice of New England, and you are listening to Something Else with Arya.
And welcome to episode number 110 of Something Else. Feast your hair holes on this week's episode as we take a look at both Mid-South Wrestling and Royal Class Championship Wrestling from July 30th, 1983. My name is Arya, and joining me, as always, is the Bill Mercer to my David Von Erich. It's Trey. Trey, how you doing today?
I'm all right. Tired. It's been we were just talking about before we started recording, and then we realized that we were once again not recording when we should have been, so we started. I was talking about being very behind on wrestling and being tired. I had a lot of husband stuff to do this weekend, so I'm very behind on what was a pretty heavy wrestling weekend. I've seen G1 because so far I've watched every G1 live, and we'll try to continue to do so. Have not watched the Ring of Honor pay-per-view, Collision, or Battle of the Belts.
I have watched none of that. I watched almost all of Dynamite last week, and I watched Ring of Honor because I got my arm twisted into reviewing it on the F4W site. But that was just the Ring of Honor TV show, not even Death Before Dishonor. So,
Did you see Dynamite week before last?
was that the Okada Swerve match?
Yeah.
I think I watched part of it, and then I know I didn't see the Okada match because most of the time I turn the show off when Chris Jericho comes out.
Did you see the MJF Will Ospreay match?
Yes, I did.
Where are you on that? Because we haven't talked about it.
I thought it was a very, very good match. I don't think it was next level all-time classic. I'll be interested because I mean they're doing a rematch at Wembley Stadium, and theoretically, if you have one match that goes 2 seconds short of an hour, the rematch is theoretically going to go just as long, but they've either got to do an all-in that has a lot fewer matches than both last year and the typical AEW pay-per-view, or this damn thing's going to go like 6 hours. But I mean, I think it was a very good match, but I don't think it was like an all-time classic.
Yeah, I was the same. I really liked the match. I wish I could have been there. That was AEW's debut in Little Rock, which is my old stomping grounds. It's cool. They got such a great show. Somebody posted on Twitter or something like the fact that MJF and Ospreay did a Tokyo Dome main event in Little Rock is that's just the vibe of AEW. But yeah, I really liked the match. I thought it was cool. I think they're probably going to go about 30 at Wembley. I think that's fine. See, I assume that this was done strictly to have Ospreay get his win back at Wembley.
Oh,
But
definitely.
then, they've really got. They're making this this MJF International Title reign really interesting. He's going to Arena Mexico, I think, this Friday to defend the title against Templario. And then it was just announced earlier today, in August, in a couple of weeks, he's going to Rev Pro to defend the title against Mike Loku.
I did see that. Now I have to ask you, does Daniel Garcia cost him the belt at Wembley?
Maybe, probably. That would be the thing. Hey, I'm cool with I'm a big Will Ospreay fan. I'm sorry. Everybody's entitled to their own whatever, but I'm of the opinion that if you don't like Will Ospreay, you just probably hate everything good in life.
Pretty much. I will say that AEW does a lot of clean finishes, clean with an asterisk sometimes, but
Yeah.
mostly clean finishes. So if they were to do this match and it be the Daniel Garcia screws MJF at the end, um, you know, it wouldn't be like we've just seen a Vince Russo show with 4 hours of screw job finishes leading up to that. Um, I I think they're going to do MJF and Garcia at All Out in Chicago a couple weeks after. So that's why I figure Garcia's coming back here. But at the same time, and I know I'm the one that brought it up, would you even have that considering it's Ospreay's big, theoretically, it's Ospreay's big title win in the UK. And would you really want to take it down a notch by having, you know, him win via interference, I guess?
And see, I don't know because I want Will to win the title back at Wembley because I think that'd be really cool. But I also really want Daniel Garcia to win the title from MJF. So I don't know.
I think there's a chance that, especially if this is the second biggest match on the show underneath Swerve and Danielson, I think it's a chance that they have MJF somehow go over to end the show with Danielson as the all-conquering babyface. But that's usually not an AEW trope where it's like if we're going to have a conquering babyface in the end, we have a lot of heel wins. It's not going to be like that WrestleMania where it's like Daniel Bryan had to win because he had all these other heel wins on the show. But I don't know.
I'm just praying.
I think it
praying.
would.
Go ahead and finish.
As I say, I think it would be silly to have Ospreay lose, but I could see them doing it.
Yeah, I'm just praying that Tony Khan is enough of a mark to insist that Bryan Danielson win the title.
What are your thoughts on the Swerve title reign? I personally, I don't know. It's like I don't think it's been that great. I think part of the problem is a lot of the time he's on these shows going last and he's following some extraordinarily strong matches that even if he's having a great match, it's not following the prior match. I think the only time it really worked was Forbidden Door because he was wrestling Ospreay, so Ospreay couldn't have a match that was outshining his. And before that was that Moxley Naito match that wasn't very good.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think Swerve's been outshined his entire title reign.
Yeah, I think there's something to that. Wrestling wise, like I think Swerve is very top tier. Character wise, it's not for me, which is fine, but I appreciate it. I definitely think he should have been the champion. I think this reign was very important. But it was at a bad time because Ospreay came into AEW and hit the ground running. And the match that they had at Forbidden Door I thought was phenomenal. But yeah, I don't think it's a problem for Swerve to lose the title here. Here's the thing, in my fantasy booking would be Danielson winning the title at Wembley, and then they could do the rematch with Swerve and Bryan in Tacoma for Bryan's last match as a full-time wrestler at Wrestle Dream.
See, I think going back, they really should have put the belt on him at Revolution when they did the three-way with Hangman, because the crowd was just insane for Swerve that night. And it's like, while they were still really into him winning at Dynasty, I think it wasn't quite nearly at the level that it was a month earlier. I think, honestly, that was one of those nights where Tony should have called an audible in the back and said, "Hey, have Swerve go over."
Yet Tony, for better or worse, is not a booker that's quick to pivot from the plan.
No, indeed. By the way, while we're talking about AEW, I downloaded the Plex app, and they have a classic wrestling channel, which for the most part is some of the worst wrestling you'll see. And right now they're airing the UWF Beach Brawl pay-per-view from, I think, 1991. When you and I started talking, they had the Paul Orndorff Colonel DeBeers Strat match, which by itself isn't that memorable, but it led to Colonel DeBeers cutting the Paul Orndorff has HIV promo the next week on TV that you can find on YouTube.
Man, what is Orndorff was in some stinky feuds in the early 90s. In WCW and where I'm at in 93, he's feuding with, like, he and Rick Rude independently of each other are both feuding with Dustin Rhodes over the US title. And the crux of the Dustin and Orndorff feud seems to be that Dustin keeps calling Orndorff Paula instead of Paul.
Yeah,
So the whole angle is just misogyny.
I don't know when the calling Orndorff Paula thing started, but he was doing that the last 6 months or so that he was in Smoky Mountain was when, at least that started in Smoky anyway. But admittedly, especially in 1993, that does get good heat, is getting the crowd to chant Paula at him. And, not saying it's good, but, whatever works, I guess. And
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I was afraid when you said him and Rude were simultaneously feuding with, I thought you were going to say Eric Watts.
No, Eric Watts is feuding with Arn Anderson. Or they're not really. I think Eric accidentally injured Arn around the first of the year, and Arn is just now coming back, and he's talking in his promos that he's about to get Eric Watts.
Okay, I mean, I guess I can. I mean, are you after Watts has left, Bill Watts? Because Bill Watts left. Okay. Well,
Watts left like right when I started watching.
Okay, because my theory would have been that, Bill is putting his kid in with good workers, so his kid learns how to work, which,
yeah,
I mean, is not the worst idea in the world, to be perfectly honest. But, it's still Eric fucking Watts here.
There's an alternate universe where Eric Watts works Smoky Mountain, right?
Yeah, but there's a real universe where Ole Anderson's kid is going to be here, and Doug Furness's brother is going to be here at some point. And here's a spoiler for like 2 years from now. There's going to be a wrestler called the Wolfman, and he sucks many dicks.
How many?
Like at least 12.
In a row?
At the same time.
Oh wow. That's I hope they got that on video. No, I listened to Cornette broke down the whole deal with Watts and WCW that they did in early 93. And his co-host brought up, like, if Watts had stayed in charge, he would have eventually wanted you to book Eric, right? And Cornette said he said immediately, "Oh, I would have got something out of Eric."
Maybe. I don't think maybe he would have, but I don't see Corny being a magician here. But
yeah,
well, we put it off. We got to get to Mid-South this week. It is Mid-South, July 30th, 1983, from the Irish McNeil Boys Club in Shreveport, Louisiana. Let's go to the intro of this week's show with Boyd Pierce and motherfucking Buddy Nichols.
God damn it.
Wrestling fans, I'm Boyd Pierce, and welcome to Mid-South Wrestling. Another exciting card this week. We hope you'll stay with us all the way. One of the matches will be the Junkyard Dog against Mr. Olympia. And the new North American Heavyweight Champion Hacksaw Butch Reed defends his title against the challenge of Magnum TA. Lots of great wrestlers, adds up to a lot of excitement and action. The men to tell us about it, the fine sports director from KALB Channel 5 in Alexandria, Louisiana, Buddy Nichols. Buddy?
Thank you, Boyd. Nice to be back again with you this week. An action-packed hour. Looks like it's going to be a good card.
It is, and the contestants are in the ring, so let's go for the introduction. We'll be right back.
So yes, it's Boyd Pierce and motherfucking Buddy Nichols of KALB Channel 5 in Alexandria, Louisiana, who once upon a time we were told is the man who made wrestling what it is today. And if this shows any indication of that, I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
This is unrelated, but I don't know if it's occurred to me to ask yet. Do we know who the booker is at this point?
It might still be Ernie Ladd.
Yeah, I assumed it was Ernie Ladd.
Yeah, I think it's Ernie until November.
Until Dundee comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And when Dundee comes in, it's one of those painfully obvious the booker has changed kind of things. Because it's like, you know, it's almost like when Russo takes over. It's like, you might as well just forget everything you've seen because none of that matters anymore. Which,
Sorry, finish.
I was going to say, which when we get to October and November, we'll be really happy to forget the stuff that we see.
I casually follow Stardom and at least try to watch a lot of their big shows. And there's been a lot of upheaval, like factions disassembling and new factions forming. And I saw somebody complaining like things are changing. This isn't the Stardom as we know it. What's happening? And I'm like, well, if I didn't know better, it would look to me like they fired their fucking booker a couple of months ago, and they probably finally found a permanent booker who's booking the show now. That's what happens when you change bookers.
Yeah, it's like I don't follow Stardom at all, and even I know that.
Yeah.
So we go from motherfucking Buddy Nichols to motherfucking George Weingroff as he teams with Trae's favorite wrestler, Tim Horner, to go 2-on-2 with Rip Rogers and Tony Zane. And you referenced this earlier when we were talking on Facebook. I believe Buddy Nichols is here because we need as many people to suck George Weingroff's dick as possible.
Okay, so George Weingroff, we know, just has the most magnificent penis. And we know from Smoky Mountain last week that Tim Horner has a long, white object in his trunks. So I took it upon myself to dub this here tag team Team Cock.
Do you want to explain to people who may not have listened to the Thursday show why we know Tim Horner has a big, long, hard white object in his pants?
They're doing a coward waves the flag match between Tracy Smothers and the Dirty White Boy, and Tim Horner is Tracy Smothers' designated flag waver.
See, I kind of just wanted you to say no and let people just think I think there's like hardcore pornography around Smoky Mountain. They may increase the listenership.
If only there'd been a secret camera in that office in the bank.
There may have been. Who knows?
Cornette's probably still got the footage. You've seen this fucking shelf.
Oh Lord, he's probably still going through tapes of people who sent him in stuff to try to get into Smoky.
Yeah.
So at one point, Rip Rogers and Weingroff are in the ring. There's a clean break. And Tim Horner, being the dickhead that he is, smacks Rip Rogers in the back of the head. Because apparently he's just an asshole.
I buy that completely.
Then, to show that Buddy Nichols is the George Weingroff of announcers, which is probably actually a insult to George Weingroff, because he's better at wrestling than Buddy Nichols is at announcing. Weingroff slaps an arm bar on Zane, and he's torturing the arm and he's slapping the shoulder, doing all the things you see people do when they got a person in an arm bar. Buddy Nichols, again, the man who made wrestling what it was, said that Zane was in no trouble since Weingroff didn't have a submission hold on him. Why is this man on my TV?
Because he made wrestling what it is in the state of Louisiana, apparently. Not Leroy McGurk, not Bill Watts, fucking Buddy Nichols. And by the way, I assume that his name is Nichols, but out of spite, I type it nickel like the 5-cent coin every time.
I don't think they've ever put a graphic up of the actual way to spell his name. So I've spelled it probably every way you could possibly think of spelling the word Nichols.
How many ways can you think to spell the word Nichols?
At least 3. Nichols, Nicolas, and Nickels.
Okay.
So they shockingly got the heat on George Weingroff. Horner gets the hot tag, which the fans were into. Of course, we break that into a 4-way, and despite not being the legal man, Weingroff gets the pin for his team, pinning Zane with an abdominal stretch into a crucifix.
George Weingroff once again channeling the spirit of Antonio Inoki, obtaining victory here with a ground cobra twist.
I wrote that everything about that match sucked, even though it was a fine match.
I wrote that it was totally fine. I mean, Weingroff and Horner are both like quite decent underneath baby faces. Rip is by far the best worker out of all these enhancement guys, except for like Arn Anderson. Tony Zane is fine.
Yeah,
this was fine.
This was a perfectly competent opening card tag team match.
Absolutely.
We then get Jim Duggan versus Rick Davidson. The fans were cheering during Davidson's introduction, but shockingly, it had nothing to do with him. And Duggan muscled Davidson over with a backdrop and then won with a spear. I wrote nothing else about this.
I thought this was a fun little brawl for the whole 2 minutes it lasted. Rick Davidson was a big boy.
Yes, he was. And we're going to talk about both him and his brother at the end of this episode of Mid-South here.
Yeah, I thought Rick had a better match.
Oh, but it's not even close.
Rick was wrestling Jim Duggan, not Art Cruz.
I don't even blame Art Cruz for that match.
No, Art Cruz is fine.
Junkyard Dog versus Tag Team Champion Mr. Olympia without General Skandor Akbar. Dog is still using Atomic Dog as his theme music, which surprises me because I thought it only lasted a few weeks. And thankfully, we did get some great news. A tremendous man, Cowboy Bill Watts, takes over the guest commentator position because Watts apparently cannot be bothered to do commentary over the enhancement matches.
I think Watts just didn't trust Buddy Nichols to properly put over his top star.
Oh, of course not. This is actually, in many ways, I don't know if it's a culmination because I'm sure they wrestle again. But these two have been in a story together for a year because when DiBiase turned on Dog last year, Mr. Olympia was the one that kind of got sidestepped into the position of Junkyard Dog's partner. And then they were tag team partners for a little bit. And then when Mr. Olympia came back and turned heel, his official heel turn was when he screwed over Dog in the finals of the North American title tournament in March. Now, keep in mind, Olympia got fucked in the ass when the referee made a bad call and he got screwed out of the title, but still.
Speaking of referees making bad calls, what the fuck was this finish?
Oh, I'm going to play it here because we don't have that much audio to play this week, so figured we could play this. We're going to go to the finish here. By the way, Olympia, whose finisher is the sleeper, kept slapping on the sleeper, and Dog found it super easy, barely an inconvenience to get out of it. And I did notice what.
Mr. Olympia, by the way, Carl Stern's favorite wrestler.
Yes. And also one of those things we got to mention every week, Dog is really packing on the pounds. I know we've said this before, but his gut is protruding nowadays. But let's go to...
I'm sorry, I was going to go way off topic because you mentioned weight gain, which is something that I've experienced quite a lot in my life. I'm actually starting to lose weight now, and I feel kind of guilty about it because I'm not earning it at all. I'm just losing weight because they put me on diabetes medicine.
How dare you? You need to go gain more weight.
I just keep telling myself that it's medically necessary.
Well, it is. I mean, it's not, a lie. But anyway, let's go to the finish here with Olympia and Dog.
Ricky Ferrera trying to break the Dog, but Olympia used a quick thinking and snapped the Dog down to that steel cable. And the Dog's ricochet as he caught him across the throat. Took Ricky Ferrera, and Olympia is putting on that foreign object on the toe of his boot that he's knocked several people out with. We saw him just last week take Tim Horner. He goes for a drop kick on Dog. He was trying to take the Dog's head out. The Dog got out of the way. Now the dog is going for the foreign object that's on Olympia's boot. The Dog has got it. He's put it on his hand. Oh, that'll bring chills to you. The Dog measures Olympia, and what an uppercut. What an uppercut. And the Junkyard Dog, Butch Reed, you better be looking both ways. Bill?
All right. So, I'll explain what happened here, and then we'll discuss it and, give me your thoughts on what you think may have happened. But, so TA throats Junkyard Dog on the top rope. Junkyard Dog bumps into referee Ricky Ferrera. So he's out. Olympia puts his foreign object on his boot and goes up for a missile drop kick, but he misses. And then the referee gets up as Dog pulls the foreign object off of Olympia's boot and clocks Olympia with it, with full permission of the referee. The referee sees him do this and gives the motion to go ahead and do it. And Dog goes ahead and does it and covers him for the 3 count. Now, my immediate thought was, geez, they are really, fucking over the heels for the Dog here. We've seen that before here. But then while we were sitting here and listening to it, I'm like, do you think Ricky Ferrera wasn't supposed to get up? And, you can't just, it's 1983. You can't flagrantly kill kayfabe by just laying back down. Do you think he wasn't supposed to get up, but he did? And so it's like, well, I know the finish is Dog winning, and I can't, I fucked up by getting up, so I might as well just let it happen.
Well, I'm not going to kill kayfabe. I think that there is systematic favoritism among these officials in favor of the quote-unquote fan favorites. This isn't even the last time on this show that Ricky Ferrera fucked a heel.
And this might, continue my theory that Ricky Ferrera fucked this up because he fucks up a finish later on pretty wickedly bad. And
I haven't noticed him to be like a bad referee or anything.
No.
How the fuck could he fuck up 2 finishes on one show?
He's been a perfectly competent referee, but now all of a sudden, man oh man, he sucked a dick on this show. Dog gets a tainted win, and Olympia has reason to be pissed.
Yeah.
Which, again, is not the last time we'll say a heel has a reason to be pissed on this show.
A lot of these heels really starting to make some sense.
Oh, yeah. Maybe we need to do a trade where the Mid-South referees get sent to Dallas with the Dallas referees.
Yes. David Manning for Rick Ferrara. Don't bring Bronco Lubick to Mid-South. Send Bronco Lubick to, I don't know, Kansas City. That's more his speed.
Where are we gonna send Joel Armstrong? Did you die on me over there?
No, can you hear me?
I can now. What happened?
Okay. Okay, yeah, I said Joel Armstrong's completely fine.
Okay, I thought you were gonna send him to like Alaska or something.
No, I'd at least send him to Japan so he could have a good time.
All right. So then we get a match. It is North American champion Butch Reed putting the belt on the line against Magnum TA. Now, before the match, they teased Reed is feuding with Duggan. Watts said that Reed claimed that he'd beaten Duggan before to prove who the real Hacksaw is. And the match gets going, and it's not a bad match. I note that it's one of those matches that, while not a dream match per se, it's definitely one of those WWF Jim Crockett Forbidden Door matches, even though the timeline doesn't really add up because Reed doesn't go to the WWF till like 87. And by that point, TA has already been in his motorcycle wreck. But this, I thought, was a match that was really almost eerily similar to a New Japan match from like 2013, 2014, 2015. Now, I don't mean like, oh, they were stiff or whatever. I mean, like, it starts and the match is fine. It's a good match. But by the end of the fucking match, it's fucking fantastic. And you and I haven't talked about this, so maybe you thought it sucked. But I thought this match was fucking amazing here. And I thought, honestly, it's one of TA's better matches ever. But of course, no one remembers it because, it's, 1983 Mid-South.
Yeah, so I thought it was, decent enough. I appreciated it. Kind of gives you a snapshot of where Magnum is right now. He is at the appropriate level that he can be slightly competitive against the heel champion, but mostly he's just there to make the heel look strong. But then, like he got a little bit of a shine in the beginning. He got a little bit of a comeback. He got a really good near fall with the belly to belly. Yeah, this is fine. In terms of, I think a problem in modern wrestling, and everybody knows I was at the original All In. I've been an AEW fan since before there was an AEW. But
Let's say that wasn't an AEW show. That was an ROH show.
I was a fan of the idea of AEW before it existed. Anyway, one of my big criticisms is that sometimes matches between people where there is a large discrepancy in relative rank, they are too competitive. And that's the thing. When you said this is like a New Japan match, to me, I went to Okada, who was like brilliant at this. When Okada would wrestle an opponent that was like considerably beneath him, they worked the match like the best wrestler in the world was wrestling a guy that was considerably beneath him. Like, he'd maybe give the guy a spot or two, but largely he's just going to walk the dog on him. And that was pretty much what Reed did here. And I thought that was fine for where Magnum TA is in his career.
This is Okada versus Bad Luck Fale in the G1 or something.
I was thinking the match that jumps to mind, I think it was like the 2022 New Japan Cup when Okada faced Master Wato.
Okay. That's a good comparison to you. Now, I will say that, like, Reed, it's kind of weird calling Reed one of the more underrated wrestlers out there. And that's purely because everyone remembers his unimpressive WWF run. But he was great in Mid-South, and then he was in Doom, and that was a great team. But everyone kind of just writes him off because his WWF run was so underwhelming.
He was a top guy in Florida at some point too, wasn't he?
Probably. Although everyone was a top guy in Florida.
I know he had some I think he had matches with Flair in Florida that Uncle Dave was very high on back in the day.
Probably. And Reed, like I said, I think he made TA look like the future star that he was. Now, keep in mind, they don't This is 1983. You didn't kick out of finishers on every show. So when TA hit the atomic drop and the belly to belly suplex that he's won all of his matches with, I'm like, holy shit, I forgot TA won the title. And then he didn't win the title. Reed kicked out at 2. And actually, I was thinking A, TA was about to win the title, or B, someone was running in for the disqualification. But neither happened. Reed just kicked out. They then teased the finish that you see in a lot of matches that needed a wacky roll-up finish, where TA pulls in Reed from the outside in a body slam, but Reed rolls through with a cradle. But nope, TA kicked out of that. And then Reed, TA had his knee worked over. He had his knee slammed into the post. And then he came back. He hit his atomic drop, but he dropped Reed on his bad knee. And so by the time TA got to his feet, Reed had already gotten to his feet and knocked him down with a flying shoulder tackle. And Reed wins to keep the belt.
Has anybody else noticed that there are 2 guys in this territory named Hacksaw, and they both do the same finish?
It is, but it isn't. I mean, I get
they're a little different. The Reed's is more of a flying shoulder tackle, and Duggan's is the 3-point charging one. But I mean, they're both fucking running shoulder blocks.
At least at the start, and they have changed it, thankfully, for Duggan's sake. At the start, the Duggan move was a flying headbutt. Like he would spear you in a headbutt.
In the WWF, it was a clothesline, right? 3-point clothesline.
Yeah. And then in WCW, it was that, and then the Old Glory knee drop that Kevin Nash infamously had a ball on Thunder one day, calling every move the Old Glory.
Oh, I wouldn't have even guessed that he had a finisher in WCW.
he like, honestly, well, not on Nitro, but I thought Duggan won more than he lost in WCW, at least until like that 98, 99 for him.
He was a mainstay on WCW Saturday Night in my first year of fandom.
Hey, he beat Steve Austin in 25 seconds to win the U.S. title. You know.
Yes, he did.
Yes. And then he pulled the TV title out of the trash can, which, I'll be honest, and I know it's a stupid way to do it. I thought if you're going to do it, that was kind of a creative way to do it, because Scott Hall had thrown the title in the trash. And so why wouldn't somebody have found it in the trash can?
I mean, it's not any worse than how Midian won the WWF European title, is it?
He found it in Shane McMahon's bag and asked Shane if he could have it.
Yes. No, he asked for a belt. Yeah, he asked Shane if he had a belt, like a belt to hold his pants up. And Shane goes, "Yeah, there's one in my bag." And then Midian buys a fucking European title.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember that part. I just remember the Midian finding the belt and now being the European champion.
Yeah.
What do you,
yeah, finding the belt in the trash can isn't any worse than that.
It's funny because they got rid of the European title after WrestleMania when Shane beat X-Pac. And then it's like they, whatchamacallit, they retired the belt, but then brought it back for one of those UK only pay-per-views and then pretended that never happened. And then had, had Midian just find it in Shane's bag.
WWF European title is my favorite tertiary championship ever.
It's funny because I always like the European title, but I also like when titles, like, they don't just have different titles, but like the titles do different things. Like, you know, like in New Japan for the longest time, the Never title was the Strong Style title. It was basically if pro wrestling was
again
real,
now, by the way.
Oh, I don't watch a lot of New Japan these days. But who's the Never champion?
Henare.
Really? I'm not picturing him doing a lot of Strong Style wrestling.
Oh nah, man. Oh, Hinare's a bad motherfucker. Go check out. He had a pair of matches with Shingo for the Never title. They went to like a double knockout at Dominion, and then like a week later, Hinare beat him. Hinare's turned into like he's like the most never champion in a long time. And he, by the way, last night or this morning, was it this morning? Yeah, he and Konosuke Takeshita had fucking best match of the tournament so far.
Interesting. I Unfortunately, the problem is there's just too much fucking wrestling out there. It's like, you know,
Yeah.
it's just so easy to just skip so much of it, which is pretty much what I do outside of apparently watching UWF Beach Brawl. Which,
I mean,
by the way, for as crappy as that pay-per-view is, there's a Steve Williams Bam Bam Bigelow main event that, I was half paying attention to, but it looked like a fucking kick-ass match.
yeah. And by the way, to get it just to ease us back in the direction of the topic, we've got a young Dr. Death on these shows who's like he's not he's not the All Japan Dr. Death yet. He's what Jim Ross would say, a puppy with big paws. But you can tell it one day soon that switch is gonna flip and he's gonna be a fucking beast. And today's answer to that is Bolton Oleg, who is this big brick shit house amateur wrestler from Kazakhstan, who's like trained in the New Japan dojo. He did they kind of fast tracked him through the Young Lion thing, and then he won a qualifying tournament for the G1, and now he's in, and just it reminds me a lot of Doc at this stage, in that give it like a little while, he needs a little more experience, he's going to be a fucking problem.
Now, before we move on, because when we were talking about titles and preposterous ways of winning or finding them, I was thinking about this. What was more preposterous? The TV title in the trash, European title in Shane McMahon's bag, or a series of WWF title changes in 1999/early 2000 that featured Deborah beating Sable for the women's title when Sable stripped Deborah of her evening gown. Head pinning Bob Holly for the hardcore title. Deerhead pinning Head. Al Snow just getting the title because I don't remember how he then took it from Deerhead. And then Harvey Wippleman beating Miss Kitty in a Snow Bunny match for the women's title.
None of those are the worst title change ever. The worst one ever was 2009, 2010 in TNA when they did the fucking Lockbox match. And then like Tara was the Knockouts champion. And then but she was trying to get her spider back. So she got a key and won her spider back. But somebody else, I don't remember who, fucking Angelina Love, maybe.
Angelina Love.
Yeah, they got that's how they got the Knockouts title. Unlocking a fucking box.
They did the 4 boxes, and one was a contract so you could have any match you wanted. And I think Velvet Sky won that because she wanted to have I think she wanted to have like a 3-on-1 handicap match against Angelina Love because that's when Angelina was a babyface. Angelina got the title. Tara got the spider, and then Daphne, who, while I think Daphne was hot, I get that I'm in the minority because I'm into that kind of thing. Daphne then had to do a striptease on live TV where she would be fired in storyline if she didn't. And of course, yeah, that was Monday Night Impact head-to-head with either the go-home show to WrestleMania 26 or the show after WrestleMania 26.
Poor Daphne.
Yes. Poor Daphne indeed. What was that stupid match called? 'Cause it was I remember way too much stupid shit. And the one thing I remember is that that match, it was like an 8-man tag, but there were 4 falls in it, and each person who won, that person and the person they beat were eliminated from the match. And that's how you don't end up with like multiple people or one person getting multiple boxes or something.
I have zero memory of this. I've seen matches like that before, but I have zero memory of this happening in TNA.
By the way, King Kong Bundy and tag team champion Ted DiBiase without General Skandor Akbar versus Dr. Death Steve Williams and John E. Rich. Now, before the match started, I wrote Rich, who got multiple pins on the tag team champions and 0 title matches, is here to do the job while the other 3 look strong. And that may have been the plan. That may have been the plan.
Do you think that's what? Because I thought the same thing that you did, and then I thought that what happened made no fucking. Do you think that was a fuck up?
I mean, at the very least, that part was the fuck up because, well, let's just tell people what the hell happened here. So Bundy finally gets in. During the match, Bundy was avoiding Dr. Death like the plague. Bundy finally gets in, and Williams punches him right on top of the head. And Bundy's either the greatest seller of all time or Dr. Death stiffed him with that punch. But then Williams and Rich, we had the 4-way breakout. Williams and Rich Irish whip Bundy across the ring into the corner where Bundy collides with DiBiase. And as Bundy stumbles out of the corner, Williams gives him a power slam. The referee counts 1. The referee counts 2. Bundy kicks out. And then the referee counts 3. Now, they continue to wrestle. Like, the match still continues, but Bill Watts is on commentary like, hey, they counted 3, ring the bell. And whatchamacallit, Boyd's also the bell ringer. And, you know, when the boss is telling you to ring the damn bell, as Mark Eaton can tell you, you ring the damn bell. And so, yeah. Bundy, I don't believe for one second this was the finish because it just seems so completely out of nowhere because Bundy's been, I don't know if he's been undefeated, but at least he's never been pinned because he's had a few DQs or whatever, but he's never been pinned on the show. But here he got pinned and not officially, but officially he got pinned by Dr. Death. And Williams and Rich got the win.
Good for Johnny Rich. He won another match.
Johnny Rich has like the greatest win-loss percentage of the last 2 months. It's like he's got nothing to show for it, but he's got a great win-loss percentage. By the way, the fans were really into this Bundy Dr. Death showdown because while Bundy was refusing to get in, the fans were chanting for him to get in the ring. And I also noted, like, even before the finish, the crowd is really into wrestling, shockingly. And they were making a lot of noise today for the good wrestling. And I thought to say they didn't make noise for Junkyard Dog or Hacksaw Duggan, but it's like if this was a crowd that when they got a good wrestling match, they were really into this shit.
Yeah. It was fine. I don't know. Probably could have had.
Now when I say the match.
Here's the thing. Whatever they were supposed to do couldn't have taken too much longer because they still had the 2 standby matches that went up pretty much right to the time. So, yeah I don't know what happened.
I mean, they brawled for like 2 more minutes, which makes me think that, you know, they were at about 2 minutes. Yeah.
Valid point.
Yeah. Finally, the heels just peeled off and went to the back. We then got Boris Zirkov versus Tony Torres. Sadly, Buddy Nichols has returned now that the important matches have ended. And Boris won with a middle rope knee drop. Did you have anything else to say about this one?
I feel like we've watched Boris Zirkov regress into a more boring wrestler.
Well, thankfully he wasn't. This match didn't last long enough to be too bad.
True.
Well, then it was time. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. Go ahead.
All right. It was then time for our expiration of time match. Art Cruz versus John Davidson. No, this isn't the guy who lost the second match. That was Rick Davidson. This is John Davidson. Also, his opponent hasn't already wrestled on the show, even though it seems like Art Cruz wrestles like 10 times on every show. John Davidson, oh my God. I think he's the worst wrestler we've seen since Larry Higgins last year. He takes an arm drag, and he doesn't even really go over for it, and he rolls over Cruz's legs, which if I'm Art Cruz, I'm pissed about that. They announced that next week it's going to be Kamala versus Tommy Rich. Hi, guys. I want to suck your dick. Can I get the North American title? Sorry, my Tommy Rich impression sucks, much like Tommy Rich.
If you put Art Cruz and Tony Zane side by side, I couldn't tell you which one was which.
We may have to try that.
The only thing that I wrote about this match was that they announced Tommy Rich versus Kamala for next week.
Hey, if we showed Tim Horner a picture of an ass or a hole in the ground, do you think he could tell the difference?
I think he'd stick his dick in both of them.
By the way, John Davidson ran off the ropes at one point and forgot what he was supposed to do because he just ran into Cruz. Thankfully, Davidson did not earn a time limit draw as he got pinned with a roll-up. And then it turns out this was a loser must retire match, as John Davidson never wrestles again.
Wow.
Yeah. And Rick Davidson... I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to ask, what about Rick Davidson?
Rick Davidson basically retires after this show as well, but he does come out of retirement to wrestle twice in '86 before hanging up his boots officially.
Okay. Well, that's I was going to say it's a shame, but it's probably best for everyone. They look good. They look like they'd be a pretty decent tag team. They look like big, rough country boys.
They toured all Japan in like 80, 81.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I gotta know more about that.
By the way, before the show ends, King Kong Bundy runs to the desk. Let's listen to that now.
Tommy Wildfire Rich.
That was the biggest rip-off I've ever seen in professional wrestling. I was that Steve Dr. Gentry is back in our day. Nobody gave King Kong Bundy, and nobody avalanches me.
And talk about stirred up. That's King Kong Bundy, and he's fired up. He said nobody does that to the Atlantic City Avalanche. Ladies and...
See, I think this was an unplanned promo. Like, Watts in the back was like, hey, that finish got fucked up, so we're going to send you out there to cut a quick promo calling out, Dr. Death for a future match.
Yeah, probably right. So I'm looking at... I'm sorry, finish thought.
I was just going to say, for the most part, they never really do these end-of-the-show promos like that.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't really think anything of it, just because, I guess because World Class does that every week, Smoky Mountain does it every week. So I'm just like, okay, that's how you end a territory wrestling show.
Anyway, you looked up the Davidsons?
I looked up the Davidsons All Japan Tour, and I found... God, I wish I could see this six-man tag. Giant Baba, Jumbo Saruda, and Prince Tonga, who is Haku, against the Davidson brothers and Bruiser Brody.
Oh my God, who did Bruiser Brody piss off that week?
They lost 2 falls to 1, and I'm guessing I can guess who lost the falls.
Jeez.
No, 2 falls to 0. I'm sorry.
Jeez, I wonder who did the JOB in those matches.
Funny enough, the next day, they did Baba, Jumbo, and Prince Tonga against the Davidson brothers and Ernie Ladd, and they won a fall. So I guess I'm guessing I can guess who won that fall.
I'm gonna bet Ernie Ladd won that fall.
John
What?
Davidson had 2 singles matches against Jumbo Tsuruta. Oh my God. They wrestled for over 20 minutes on August 5th, 1980. Oh my God.
Did it kill the town?
If I die and go to hell, that's going to be where the video of that match is. And it may have killed the town because it was in a town that I have never heard of before.
What town was it?
Gotemba in Shizuoka Prefecture at the Fuji Bowl parking lot.
Yes, I can tell you that I'm pretty sure All Japan does not run any shows at the Fuji Bowl parking lot anymore. Although, to be fair, I don't watch All Japan either.
I wonder if John Davidson is still alive.
I know one of them died.
It doesn't have a death date on his cage match. I guess he might be. So there's hope. There's hope that one day I might run into him and I can do that thing I do and ask him about wrestling Jumbo Tsuruta.
Oh Lord! You're not even gonna ask him about being the worst wrestler we've ever seen.
I don't even know if he's the worst wrestler I've ever seen.
Okay, all right.
By the way, Rick Davidson passed away in 2000.
Okay, yeah, because when I was doing my research, I saw that one of them had died, but I was too busy looking up that they retired immediately after the show. I was more like, okay, maybe they had another gimmick because, I didn't remember ever hearing of the Davidson brothers. I'm like, okay, they may have been like a Memphis gimmick under a different name. Maybe they were the Medics. Maybe they were the Masked Superstars or something. Like, nope. They were just Rick and John Davidson. So
Indeed.
We let John Davidson retire in peace, and we go 190 miles west to the Sportatorium in Dallas, Texas, for World-Class Championship Wrestling. Let's go to the intro here with Bill Mercer.
Is World-Class Championship Wrestling from the Sportatorium in Dallas, Texas, with the greatest array of international wrestling stars. I'm Bill Mercer. Great to have you with us. And our main event is going to be featuring these two.
This ain't gonna take me long. This ain't gonna take me long. You better quit signing them autographs. Don't call me pretty hair.
Yeah, Garvin and Kevin Von Erich. But our first bout's going to be Jose Lothario and Grand Marcus next on World Class Championship Wrestling.
If you were Jimmy Garvin, would you be happy that Kevin Von Erich thinks you have pretty hair?
If I was Jimmy Garvin, I wouldn't be happy about anything. Not that, I mean, I mainly mean the level of bullshit that he has to put up with in this territory. I would be very unhappy if I had that amount of bullshit, that amount of biased officiating, that amount of these fucking Von Erichs. That's got to be frustrating for anyone.
Hopefully the check was pretty decent for wrestling and losing to the Von Erichs repeatedly.
Probably the best check in the territory other than the ones that went to the Von Erichs.
Probably. Jose Lothario versus Grand Marcus was our opener. As always, every time we see Jose on WCCW, I keep thinking Shawn Michaels is going to be here soon, but that's not until January of '85. So I got to tell you, I wasn't paying a lot of attention to this match. I had Peacock's Gold Zone on in the background during this week's shows, and during this match was a shoot-off for the gold medal in women's team archery, where South Korea won their 10th straight gold medal, beating China by a single point. And South Korea has actually won every single gold medal in women's team archery. What I am saying is that was a lot more interesting than this match.
Okay, first I have to note my concern. I think Mark Lawrence was drunk again. That said, this match was so fucking funny. Oh my God. these fucking two middle-aged, barrel-chested Mexican gentlemen are fucking leapfrogging each other and just barely getting clearance and shit. And then for the finish, Jose tried a monkey flip right next to the ropes, and Marcus just kind of held on and didn't go over, but then put his feet on the ropes, which I guess somehow helped them, and he got the pin. This was
he had his feet on the top ropes.
Yeah. I'm sorry. This to me was so bad it was good.
Jose Lothario was 48 during this match here. And let's see here what Grand Marcus was. Grand Marcus was only 30. Actually, he wasn't even 30. He was 29.
Jesus.
Yes. So, well, if he died by the time he was 58, let me see. Actually, no, he's still alive, according to the always reliable Wikipedia. But
we've talked about my theory that that people like prior to our generation aged so much worse because before the year 2000 nobody drank water.
I didn't think water was invented until the year 2000. I figured everyone had it. Everyone kept all the water in their Y2K storage sheds. And then once January 1st came around, they all had to drink that damn water.
Yeah, there was a point in history at some places where the water was so unclean that they had to turn it into beer to be able to drink it.
And then some places just did that for the hell of it.
True.
I also noted in this match that Mercer wasn't paying attention to the match either. Mercer was far more interested in what is going on with Bruiser Brody, and to be fair, so am I. He does promise a follow-up on Garvin and Sunshine being valet for a day for David Von Erich. I was very offended that the clock on this match wasn't being sped up. I mean, there wasn't anything technically wrong, but if there was one match where we needed an 8-minute, 10-minute time limit draw, it was this one.
Yeah, this one went 8:56. That's the longest match we've had on this show.
Until like 20 minutes from now.
Oh, yeah. That's
actually, until the next match. And even 20 minutes from now. But
it was the longest opening match that we've had on this show.
Even though we've had 10-minute time limit draws.
Yes.
We can attest that the 10-minute time limit draws went shorter than this 8-minute, 50-second opening match.
I think one was 8:44 and one was like 8:14 or something.
Yes. And they were always Chris fucking Adams versus Johnny Mantel.
Yes.
All right. Let's go to an interview. Hey, Akbar wasn't on Mid-South this week, but he is all over World Class. Let's go to him now.
Iskander Akbar and the Mongol. When are you going to be able to have a match with Kamala and Bruiser Brody?
Oh, wait just a minute. One thing I want to say first, whether it be singles or tag competition, Devastation Incorporated always shows it's worthwhile. As you see the mighty Mongol, he'll be in action with Terry Gordon. An awesome team. Now, I've heard a lot about Bruiser Brody lately. Bruiser Brody. Well, Brody, all you've got to do is come right down to Devastation Incorporated and meet the Ugandan warrior in any arena. And I'm waiting for you, Brody. As a matter of fact, I think you're hiding. I think you're chilled just a little bit because you got just a little taste of the mighty Ugandan warrior. But this time you're going to get the full course menu if we can get you in the ring, Brody. So come on down. Come on down, Brody.
Well, there it is. He says Brody is slow. Brody says he's ready to go. I hope it happens soon. Let's go now to Mark Lawrence in the ring.
All right. So Akbar says all Brody has to do is show up in any arena to face Kamala. And Mercer says that Akbar says he's being slow. Something said. Not good. Slow.
Wait, who said who was being slow?
Mercer said that Akbar said that Brody was being slow.
Huh.
How dare you call me slow?
I don't think Bill Mercer should accuse anybody else of being slow.
You shouldn't anyway. Then we got, what I thought was, there wasn't much competition, but the best match in World Class this week. Iceman King Parsons and Chris Adams versus the Mongol and Terry Gordy with General Skandor Akbar. The crowd was super into this, like almost to the point where I thought Von Erich was involved. Now, obviously, Gordy being involved does have a lot to do with it, but it also shows how popular Parsons and Adams have become, that they're able to get this reaction to their match without any Von Erich involvement. And, of course, obviously, the overwhelming star power of the Mongol cannot be ignored.
So, yeah, they stole the show, but it was petty theft.
I mean, I think Kevin and Garvin could have had the best match if they had the time, but they only had like 4 minutes. But
yeah. So here's the deal. Terry Gordy is the best wrestler in this territory right now, and it's not even close. And he's not even as good as he will be. The Mongol might be the worst wrestler in the territory. Parsons is fine on offense, but sucks at selling. Mongol sells fine, but sucks on offense. Best part of this was when Gordy and Adams were in together, obviously.
Oh, by the way, speaking of Parsons, I forgot to mention something that happened in the Jose Lothario Grand Marcus match that is obviously super important, so I got to bring it up here. Towards the end of the match, Jose was on the apron, and Grand Marcus proceeded to present him with his ass.
Oh my god. I just sprayed squirt all over the place.
Don't drink squirt when I'm talking.
It's actually a squirt, zero sugar.
Well, that makes it better than spew that all over the place. So, to quote Bill Mercer, during this match, Adams exploded all over Gordy. Now, when that happened, I was watching the women's gold medal skateboarding finals, so I assumed Adams didn't just give Gordy a running knee lift, and instead it was something much more X-rated. They got the brief heat on Adams, so brief that you'd think it wasn't that big of a deal, but the crowd lost their shit when Parsons got the tag. According to Mercer, Iceman then exploded on the Mongol. Now, I was watching the women's skateboarding finals, so I assumed Parsons didn't just give Mongol a chop, and instead it was something much more X-rated. Wait, I already told that joke. This was a long match. I thought it was more good than bad. Gordy used a suplex on Adams that Bronco Lubitsch counted 3 on, but because Bronco Lubitsch is better than Ricky Ferrera this week, and Adams had kicked out long before the 3, the match didn't just end. They got a long heat segment on Adams, and Adams showed why he was booked as a babyface, even though he ends up being one of the best heels in the company, because he plays a tremendous underneath babyface. Iceman gets a hot tag and makes Mongol take a bump after an imaginary move, and then he hits she calls that the rear view on Mongol, but Gordy had blind tagged in, and he runs up the ropes with a running knee to the back, and Gordy pins Parsons. And this match went almost 15 minutes, which is an eternity for a 1-hour TV show in the early 80s.
Okay, so you said Gordy hit a running knee attack. That is
a running jumping knee.
Here's the thing. So Parsons had Mongol in the corner. Gordy ran at Parsons. And then he did a downright gentle looking shin to the lower back. And then took his time pinning him. And then pinned him.
See, I looked at it a little differently than that. I looked at it like they were in the ropes and he had to pull Parsons out into the middle of the ring to make the cover, because if this was the shoot, why wouldn't Parsons have just grabbed the ropes?
So, how do you explain the shitty knee?
I didn't think it was a shitty knee. I thought it was a decent looking knee, and I didn't even think it was to the lower back. I thought it was more to the upper back. So apparently, you and I really saw this finisher differently.
Looked like a running shin to the lower or middle back to me.
Okay. You know? By the way, congrats to Koko Yoshizawa of Japan, who won gold in women's street skateboarding during this match. And for what it's worth, that is the last note I'm going to make about the Olympics during either this show or the Smoky Mountain show on Thursday.
Really? You're not gonna have further? Oh, you already watched it.
About what? Oh yeah, I
You've already watched
it.
Smoky Mountain. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, well, how do you know you're not gonna have further? But okay.
I did whatchamacallit. I don't remember what point and what show it was, but at some point Serbia was up 10 points on the US men's basketball team. And I'm like, upset alert, but nope. US came back. Team LeBron won.
Serbia can't catch a break.
Nope. Rock Riddle versus Kamala with General Skandor Akbar Friday and the Mongol, because the Mongol has to be on the show for like 40 minutes this week. I don't know what this one fan was chanting, but they show one fan chanting something that was 3 syllables long, and I don't know why, but I thought I could swear he was chanting CM Punk.
Spoiler! A time traveler.
Yeah, in 1983, no fans were chanting for CM Punk.
This one might have been.
Possibly. And that's why there's only one fan chanting, because everyone else would be like, what the fuck is he talking about? By the way, I did make note of how long the pre-match disrobing took versus the actual match, because I was convinced that the pre-match disrobing was longer. Unfortunately, this week, because of General Skandor Akbar, it took longer for Kamala to win than it took for Kamala to disrobe. It took him 1 minute and 46 seconds to disrobe, and then he defeated Rock Riddle by disqualification in 2 minutes and 16 seconds. And he would have beaten the time easily, but whatchamacallit, Akbar ordered him to keep on fighting. But yeah,
I do not believe this was a disqualification. I believe it was a pin.
You think it may have been a referee stoppage? Because I don't think there was a pin.
No, it was. I wrote down pin via splash.
You and I apparently watched 2 different episodes of World Class this week. 2 different episodes with the same matches and the same winners anyway. Because, yeah, I saw Kamala beating on him and Brody ran in for the DQ.
Yeah, no. So it was kind of confused because they did, like, it started, the people got loud and Bill Mercer was saying, "Oh, here comes Brody." And then, but in that time that it took Brody to get to the ring, I swear Kamala pinned Rock Riddle.
Keep in mind, I have the goddamn video up and I could just rewind, but I'm so set for the next segment that I don't want to rewind and look. Maybe because I'm afraid of being proven wrong. I don't know.
Here's the thing. It doesn't fucking matter.
No, it doesn't. So Brody gets the best of this fight with Kamala. He sends Kamala flying out of the ring after a big blow, despite Jose Lothario and Chris Adams, among others, trying to break it up. David Manning was in there too, and I was hoping Brody would fuck him up, but Brody didn't, thus turning heel. But it's kind of weird that Kamala actually, I thought this was very similar to the Jim Duggan Kamala pull apart last week, and B, that that Brody just got the best of him.
Yeah. Man, they were fucking scrapping though. I'm here for this. We better get a Kamala and Brody singles match on TV at some point.
They're obviously going to be wrestling in the upcoming weeks, so I'm hoping that at least one of them happen in the Sportatorium.
So, would you believe Rock Riddle had his last match in 2019?
I would not believe that.
Would you like to guess against who?
In 2019. What's his name? Dick Spot guy. Not Joey Janela. Joey Ryan.
Not Joey Ryan. Matt Stryker.
Matt Stryker, our teacher, or Matt Stryker, the other one?
Teacher Matt Stryker, not Unibrow Matt Stryker.
I think Unibrow Matt Stryker would have been better.
I think Unibrow Matt Stryker was a better wrestler than Teacher Matt Stryker.
Unfortunately, Unibrow Matt Stryker didn't have a job that he got fired from and made national news for skipping work to go wrestle in Japan.
He looks like that fucking eagle from Sesame Street.
Unibrow Matt Stryker?
Yeah.
Oh, Lord. So while we talk about Matt Stryker, let's go to Bill Mercer, who's got an update on the valet for a day situation with David Von Erich and Jimmy Garvin.
Last week, after David Von Erich had beaten gorgeous Jimmy Garvin, Garvin and Sunshine were valets for a day for David Von Erich at the ranch. Well, everything went pretty well. Garvin complained a lot, but he did dig post holes. He moved the hay around. He washed the dog. They did all those things that David Von Erich wanted. Until at the end of the day, when David Von Erich wanted Garvin to clean out an old barn. And Garvin objected. Didn't want to be on TV for some reason. Finally, his temper got the best of him, and they got into a confrontation. Jimmy Garvin threatened David with a shovel, and away they went, crashing into the side room. And finally, they were separated, and that ended the day of valet work. But Jimmy Garvin and David Von Erich are still far at odds, and we had a chance to go back and take a look at David Von Erich after he had cooled off. Well, this is the scene of the confrontation that you saw between David Von Erich and gorgeous Jimmy Garvin. The end of the day. It ended a little sooner, I think, than we anticipated, but Jimmy Garvin being David's valet, and Garvin kind of blew up, as we might expect also. Fortunately, we had a couple of NWA officials here, Jackson and Usher, who brought the two men apart. And David was cooling off.
I'm through cooling off, Bill Mercer. Let me tell you something. I started out fighting in this barn when I was a little boy, and I don't care if my last fight is in this barn. Jimmy Garvin, you touched me in a personal way you never touched me before. And anytime I can step inside the ring with you, fine.
So the confrontation between David Von Erich and gorgeous Jimmy Garvin is far from over. And we'll have more on World Class Championship Wrestling in a moment.
I do not have a clean enough mind to watch this show, apparently, because David Von Erich announces that Jimmy Garvin touched him in a way he's never been touched before.
That is quite an accusation.
All I could think was, David, please point out the doll to where Jimmy Garvin touched you.
Is that why he's such an asshole? I'm sorry. This is terrible. I'm not gonna do this.
Sexual assault is not funny.
It's not. I'm sorry.
However, that was... Oh my God. I'm thankful, by the way, that they noted that NWA officials Jackson and Usher were there, because when Mercer says that Garvin and David got broken up, I'm like, who the fuck broke them up? Because the only two people there were Mercer and the cameraman.
There's probably some ranch hands around somewhere.
I wanted to believe Mercer was pulling them apart.
I don't think Mercer has that much initiative.
He probably remembers Kamala shoving him down a few months ago, and he's like, I'm not getting involved in this shit.
That's fair. It's fair.
So Jim Garvin with Sunshine versus high-flying Kevin Von Erich. We found out that David Von Erich, like all Von Erichs, doesn't like being attacked in a barn. I mean, do most people enjoy being attacked in a barn?
John Wilkes Booth didn't.
No, he didn't. I know that this match probably won't last long because there were only 7 minutes left on the show. So my guess is this match would go less than 7 minutes. And guess what? I was right.
It went 3:45.
Yeah. That is less than 7 minutes.
It is. It is.
Garvin is such a great chicken shit heel. It's too bad that he felt that he had to get roided up and tried to be the serious kick-ass heel as part of the Freebirds in '89.
Yeah.
Now, with that said, though, it's like at that point, he probably had to do something different just because, it was either go back to WCW or the WWF, and the WWF, he wasn't even steroided up. He wasn't big enough for even the small end of the WWF. So it's like he had to do something different, just that this was a bad choice for something different.
Yeah. So I criticized the quality of Terry Gordy's running knee earlier. I will now do the reverse for Kevin Von Erich's big splash. This splash had some oomph on it. Like, it sounds like a lame finish. If somebody jumped this high into the air and came down with their torso on yours, it would completely knock the wind out of you and you get pinned too.
It sounds like even more of a lame finish, because the finish was Sunshine jumping on the ring apron to distract the referee. And then Garvin tried to do something, but that didn't work because Kevin just hit his aforementioned big splash. The referee ignored Sunshine for 3 seconds, made the count, and got the win. So Jim Garvin...
Need more referees that just ignore the blatant distractions.
So Jim Garvin on a bit of a losing streak. Comes into the territory winning. Then he draws, and now he's losing.
When you feud with the Von Erichs, you're going to do a lot of losing.
Indeed. So
you think Kevin's mad at David? You think he thinks about how David fucked him out of the world title?
I think so. And Kevin really, he gets fucked the next year when they decide Kerry should get the title shot instead of him. So Kevin just being fucked 10 ways from sideways over this world title.
You think that's why Kevin wanted $1,000 to do the Kerry benefit show in '93?
Probably. It's the money that he would have made for that 3 weeks as NWA World Champion that he didn't make as the top babyface of the promotion where his daddy wrote the checks.
I would think being NWA champion for 2 weeks, you'd make more than $1,000.
See, I'm thinking $1,000 more than what he made anyway.
Okay, maybe that's fair.
So here's a question for you. Because obviously Fritz owns the company. He's the one paying all the boys. If the company is dying, does Fritz basically say to his boys, I'm not giving you a paycheck until this thing gets turned around? Or does his boys get paid first?
I would think that the boys get paid first.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's go to a show-ending promo here. Buddy Roberts and Michael Hayes. And Buddy's got a new wig on this week.
Well, Buddy Roberts and Michael Hayes here with us on our close. And, Buddy, they got your wig off.
Hey,
Bruiser Brody took it away.
Hey, wig. A lot of people are saying that Buddy Roberts has no hair. I'll tell you, I have an shut up. I have an appointment tomorrow with the hairdresser. And I'll tell you what, Bruiser Brody, you're trying to make $500. I'll tell you what, trying to get $500 is a very big gamble on your livelihood.
You got a rematch with him?
Hey, shut up.
Okay. Let's talk about a rematch in the sixth man.
Brody is really buying a lot of trouble that he might not be able to answer to, like with Kamala. But besides that, when he gets through, he's going to be ours. Now, the sixth man, the rematch, the thing that everybody's talking about all across the country. Promoters in Atlanta, Georgia want it. Promoters in Memphis. Promoters in Chattanooga. Promoters in El Paso, San Antonio. I can't tell you where it's going to be. But I can tell you this. All my life, I've done whatever I had to do, and so have my brothers, to be what we wanted to be. We didn't have no father helping us, so help me, we will get back our world title in the rematch.
Michael Hayes and Buddy Roberts, thank you very much. There will be a six-man world championship crew. The Von Erichs will be in action next week on World Class Championship Wrestling against Michael Hayes, Buddy Roberts, and gorgeous Jimmy Garvin. Now, it's not a championship match, but it has the excitement. So long.
I did like that Michael Hayes apparently had the ability to turn the crowd noise off during his promo. But so Buddy has a new wig, and to be honest, I was disappointed because I thought what was going to happen was he'd be talking shit, and either Brody or what's his name, Iceman Parsons, would walk up behind him and pull the wig off.
Did this look suspiciously like Parsons' hair to you?
Because of the braids?
Yeah.
Maybe?
I just wonder if he was going for that, or if it was just a coincidence.
I think he may have been going for it. You know?
Whatever he was doing.
It's hard to replicate that level of hairstyle of Parsons, because, like, you know, he really should have lost that hair match. Well, he did lose the hair match, but he should have had his head shaved just so he could start over. Because that is quite the hairdo, I must tell you that.
This mop of buddies here that was looked like a fucking big ass spirit Halloween spider.
Hayes says that all the promoters in the Southeast want this match. I'll bet you $10 that the promoter in either Dallas or Fort Worth win the rights to that 6-man match.
I'm not going to bet against it.
So that was World Class Championship Wrestling. Honestly, head to head, I say Mid-South is better this week. And most weeks I side with World Class, but I like Mid-South more this
week. Yeah, I usually think that World Class is a better wrestling show, but not this week.
Yeah. I mean, Mid-South had that Magnum TA Butch Reed match that, while I liked it a lot more than you did, was still, you know, head and shoulders over the vast majority of this show.
Yeah, there was the one match that went like quite a long time, and it's just it had its moments, but then there was a lot of there was a Mongol-sized weight dragging it down.
I thought at least even with Mongol, they had 3 good workers in there, or 2.5 good workers in there to try to bring the match quality up at least.
Here's the thing. Parsons is he is really good at being a babyface on offense. It's when it's his turn to sell, it's a rough time.
That is true. So, by the way, before we start to wrap things up, we were talking about Herb Abrams' UWF at the start, and for some weird reason, I've been on a little bit of a Herb Abrams UWF kick lately. And shockingly, we've never played this promo on this show, and I've got to play it here. It is a commercial that Herb Abrams had the Golden Greek John Tolos do for a local limousine company, and I gotta play it here and get your opinion on it.
This is the Golden Greek speaking, and when I travel in style, man, all the way. Look at this beauty. Look at this, the Midnight Express limousine. Beautiful, classy, first class, the ultimate in traveling. This is what the Golden Greek does, travel in first class. Take a look at this, the Midnight Express beauty. Take a look inside. All the comforts of home, television, telephone, a little refreshment, comfortable ride. What do you need? And it sits everybody comfortably. Remember, the Golden Greek tells you, Midnight Express limousine, the ultimate in limousine service. And if you heard it from the Greek, you heard it from the top man.
Now, I admit I'm a little obsessed with this commercial. I love John Tolos screaming at me about a limousine company for an entire minute. What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, it's not as good as the cookies commercial.
For UWF cookies.
Yeah.
With Herbie cookies.
Herbie cookies. I think it's fitting that we finish the show paying tribute to a true visionary in professional wrestling, Herb Abrams. He died doing what he loved, cocaine and hookers.
If we ever do a UWF podcast, that'll be its name, Cocaine and Hookers.
Outstanding.
And we'll either get 1 million listeners or 0. One of the two.
There's a fantastic podcast called Cocaine and Rhinestones. It's about the history of country music.
How is it?
Great. It's Tyler Mahan Co. Very, very smart guy. Knows a lot about music. Really good stuff. If you're into music history, or just into country music, or just into like crazy fucking stories, it's good stuff. And as a despite ultimately failing, I am trained as a historian, so I really admired the analytical rigor and critical reading of sources that he put into the podcast. So as far as a work of history, I think it's excellent.
You are trained as a historian, you say?
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. All right. So we've somehow only gone like 90 minutes, and we actually finished both of our shows in that 90 minutes.
Yeah, I don't know. It's probably better. The 3 hours probably a bit much.
We even though I certainly didn't drink, we may have been drunk that night.
Especially nice tight 90 minutes. Probably the sweet spot.
It's probably better for our listeners here.
Yeah, both of them.
Yes. Hey, we doubled our listenership. We're at 2 now.
If we can do that every day, we'll have 20 in a couple weeks.
By the way, I should note that I never got any replies on the if you're still listening to this, you get a prize thing on that one show we did.
That's unfortunate.
Sad to report that nobody listened that long.
Is anybody still listening now?
I think both of our listeners are listening. I'm pretty confident.
If you're listening right now, if you're on the YouTubes, comment Rutabaga.
Rutabaga.
What
if they can't spell rutabaga? Is it okay if like they get something that looks like it could be rutabaga?
If you can't spell rutabaga, just write what's the easiest to spell fruit? Blueberry.
I like that you could have said apple, you could have said pear, peach, something short. Nope. Blueberry.
Well, one more thing to talk about as we're finishing up here. So I told you we couldn't record last night. I had to go. Was going out with my wife to play games with some friends. I on Amazon Prime Day, when I was just going through the deals looking at stuff, I found the most fun party game. It's called Poetry for Neanderthals.
Poetry for Neanderthals.
So the deal is you have a card with like a word on it, or a couple words, and you have to get your team to guess the word. But because you're a caveman, you can only use 1-syllable words.
That sounds fun.
It is actually extremely fun.
Did you win Poetry for Neanderthals?
I fucking dominated Poetry for Neanderthals.
I bet Sasha was proud.
Played we played at 3 or 4 rounds. At the end, I counted up all the points, and the other team had like 40 points, and my team had like 78 points.
Now, was Sasha on your team, or did she have to team with somebody else?
Who is Sasha?
Your wife.
Why is my wife Sasha?
Because we were talking last week or the week before about Mercedes Monet, and somehow it led to me just calling your wife Sasha.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's my fault because I explained that my wife was just like Sasha Banks, except a little shorter and looked different. I forgot to say she also has a different name, so I understand the confusion. Honest mistake.
To be fair, honestly, I think I know your wife's name because for some reason I think I remember being Facebook friends with her, although I don't think we are now. But and I'm pretty sure it's not Sasha. But I mean, either way, would she even want us to be saying her actual name on this fine program?
Probably not.
Okay, so Sasha it is,
All right.
But anyway, that's probably going to do it here for this week. Do you have anything left to say to the fine listening audience out there?
Go see Deadpool and Wolverine and come and settle our argument about it. We'll do a poll.
I mean, I accept that I am in the minority on this, but I don't like Deadpool. I don't think it's funny at all. I think it's 2 hours of him breaking the third wall, and okay, great. The main character in a movie knows that the movie is fake. Why on earth would I want to watch this?
Okay, no, you're completely allowed to not like a movie. That's fine. What the question is, movies are fucking expensive. If you don't like Deadpool, why'd you go see a movie called Deadpool?
Because I have AMC A-list, and that's the only movie in theaters this weekend that I didn't see yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Legitimately, I see a lot of movies these days, more than apparently come out. I really should have seen Inside Out 2 for the third time.
But yeah, if you like Deadpool or superhero movies or Marvel movies or just dumb bullshit in general, go see Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yes, if you're one of the 99% of the people out there who like Deadpool, you will like this movie. No doubt.
Hey, so how was Twisters? I kind of want to see it. Was it good?
I think it's as good as the original.
Really?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to have to go see that soon.
Yeah. Now, you may be somebody out there who thinks that's the backhanded compliment, or you might not have really. If you didn't like the first Twister, you're not going to like this. We'll say that. But I think it's just as good. And
Who the fuck doesn't like the first Twister?
Who the fuck doesn't like Deadpool? There's somebody out there who doesn't like everything.
Fair point.
Much
no
like
accounting for taste.
Much like how every wrestler has one fan, every movie has at least one person who doesn't like it. And I always think of that because Batista in his book talked about being a fan of the Warlord. And it's who the hell was a fan of the Warlord? But Batista was.
Everybody's got a fan.
Yeah. And actually, I used to work with somebody who may have legitimately been the first Nia Jax fan. And I don't know how many Nia Jax fans there are. There may only still be one. But, he was at least the first.
I wonder if he's still a fan.
Yeah, I haven't talked to him in 5 years. So maybe he is, maybe he isn't. Who knows?
Shout out to Nia Jax's fan.
Yes. Whose birthday, by the way, is on the same day as the WrestleMania where Nia won the title.
I was at that WrestleMania.
Yes, I think we were talking about that. If not on this show, then in real life recently.
Yeah, probably.
So anyway, that's going to do it for this week's show. Before my running list that I have to keep changing the word "and" at, because I thought the last thing we talked about was poetry for Neanderthals. And then we talked about Deadpool and Wolverine, and I decided to change the "and" to there. Now we talk about Nia Jax, so I got to change the "and" to here. So we're going to end things before I have to keep editing this thing. So thank you all for listening. Hope you all enjoyed it, and we'll talk to you again in 7 days.
Bye.